You know, Patrick, you know what I mean? Like over there, you have.
So did you have a good day?
You're on.
Good, good. Okay, call to order, Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. Let's have a roll call, please.
Okay, and it says, I'm recording this starting at 6:02. Bill Marin,
Yo,
Joan Keefe,
Here.
Gino Rossetti is absent because he has a conflict at the beginning. Eric Volzek,
Here.
Tracy Bennett,
Here.
Bernie Grauer,
Here.
Rob Levitt.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
alrighty, thank you. Let's first off approve the minutes of June 30, 2020. Does anybody have any additions or changes to make in that document? We have a motion to approve.
So moved. I'll second.
We have a first with Tracy, a second with Joan. All in favor? Do we need a roll call on this?
If you raise your hand and I can see you, we don't need a roll call.
All in favor?
So I show all 6 folks having their hands up.
So none opposed, motion passes. Alrighty. Item 3A, public hearing for St. Vincent's Church. Who is taking it? James?
Yeah, James is.
Okay, we do have Pat McMahon and Father Rick here this evening as the applicants. This is a public hearing on an application submitted by Archdiocesan Housing as well as St. Vincent's Church to construct an expansion to St. Vincent's Church at 240 Midland Avenue. The development review actions that are requested include rezoning to the P Public Zone District, community housing review to waive the affordable housing mitigation requirements, as well as a site plan review to establish the allowable dimensional requirements for the site in the P Public zoning, including a reduction of off-street parking requirements. Let me share my screen, just a quick second. Oh.
Ooh, just a second. The security person over here has to permit James to share.
Did you switch it?
Yeah.
There we go. So the property subject to the application is St. Vincent's Church. It's at 240 Midland Avenue, and it's currently zoned C2. It contains the existing church, as well as a small rectory house that you see on the survey here. Here's the church, here's the rectory house. The church is about 5,900 square foot. The proposal is to demolish the existing unoccupied rectory house and to construct an addition of about 2,400 square foot on the western extent of the church. And they're proposing to move the current curb cut on Midland Avenue to the western extent of the property and to construct an access drive to the rear of the property with 4 parking spaces as well as a loading area at the rear of the new expansion. The applicants have indicated that the proposal is to allow them to move their religious education classes out of the basement and to provide a more workable space for the current activities in the church. The review process will be a P&Z making recommendations to the town council on the land use actions that are requested. In reviewing the application, staff has identified a series of discussion items. The first being consistency with the neighborhood character. As you can see, the proposed addition is a 1-story addition. It's about 19 feet tall to the ridge of the addition. And staff believes it's consistent with objectives in the master plan of encouraging a mix of use downtown by allowing operational needs to be met and keeping the church downtown, cultivating the pride in downtown, as well as keeping the small-town character and small-town atmosphere, and the other goals of maintaining vitality in the downtown area. Staff also believes it allows it to continue to be an important gathering spot in the downtown area. In terms of access and parking, this was the most significant discussion item when the church previously received a sketch plan approval in 2007 for expansion. The applicants have proposed to create the 4 additional off-street parking spaces as well as the loading area. Staff believes that these are important addition of off-street parking spaces, especially for those patrons of the church that have mobility difficulties, because it's currently fairly difficult to get from the parking on Midland Avenue into the church if you have difficulties walking. The applicants have also obtained consent from the school district to use the elementary and middle school parking lots for larger events, as was also the plan in 2007 when they received expansion approval. The access drive that is proposed is pretty tight. The applicants tried to get consent to combine the driveway with the neighboring property, but they were not able to do so. Staff does believe it's workable, and we've included a condition requiring cautionary signage plan related to the narrow drive. We've also included language in the draft conditions that would allow a TRC staff level approval in the future if the church and the neighbors ever wanted to combine the driveways, as it would likely benefit both properties in staff's mind. In terms of the community housing waiver, the church is one of the uses which the community housing mitigation waiver can be applied to under the P Public Zone District. The applicants are proposing the waiver as they are not expanding the operations, but making more workable space for the current operations. And the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Committee, BAC, reviewed the waiver request and was supportive of the waiver. In terms of other discussion items, the property boundary overlaps, P&Z kind of viewed this when we did the site visit about a month back. There are overlaps in terms of the property boundaries to the north and the church property, as you can see shaded here on the screen. The applicants have designed their site plan so that they don't need to use the overlap property, but we've included language suggesting that they try and clean it up, but it's not a requirement based on the conditions. Tree removal and tree protection. There is a common tree on the western property line that the neighbors are supportive of maintaining. The applicants have identified in their application materials that they're proposing to maintain that tree, and we've got a condition that's in the conditions drafted for tree protection fencing to be provided by the applicants and then inspected by staff prior to starting construction activities. So they're proposing to preserve that tree. Other topics included bat preservation. It was noted at a prior P&Z meeting that the Rectory House has bats, and it would be a good idea to preserve those bats through the construction process. So the applicants have proposed to install one-way bat doors, and there's some information in your packet about these. It allows the bats to get out but not to get back into the house. And so the applicants have proposed to install those before demolishing the house. And then they're proposing to provide a bat box elsewhere on the site for a replacement location for them to live. And these preservation techniques are included in the conditions of approval. Future childcare is another topic. Back in 2007, when they received an approval, it was provided for that they would have an abbreviated approval process in the future if they wanted to do accessory childcare to the church activities. The applicant is not proposing that as part of this application, but staff thought it would be appropriate to include language authorizing the P&Z to review a future childcare application, given the community demand that we currently have for childcare, if the applicant ever was interested in providing accessory childcare in the future. In terms of conditions related to construction management, there were some comments in the public comments that were sent out by Susan today to P&Z related to construction management items. There's a condition that was in the draft conditions related to the applicant being required to provide a construction management plan, and staff has added some language to that suggested condition that was sent out to P&Z today. It includes requiring the fence along the western property line to be maintained, which was a concern of the neighboring property owner throughout construction. And then there was a request by the neighbors to require barrier cloth on the construction fencing around the project, and the applicant indicated that they would be willing to do that, so that's reinforced in the draft conditions. And we've got the revised condition on the screen here. Other conditions of note, we've got draft condition requiring that the applicants meet the sustainable building regulations, and they've proposed to have solar on the expansion. So this evening, staff would recommend taking applicant comments, taking public comments as it is a public hearing, and then providing P&Z discussion. Ultimately, if P&Z is comfortable with the conditions, you could make a recommendation to the town council. I will stop sharing my screen here so that Pat, if you would like to introduce the applicants and identify if you've got comments at this point, that'd be great.
Thank you, Jane. Yes, I'm Pat McMahon. I live in Basalt, and I'm a parishioner at St. Vincent's, and we also have our pastor, Father Rick Neckbazil, on the call. And thank you for including us on your agenda and taking the time to review this application. I'm not sure if it's made it to P&Z committee review, but our number one priority in requesting this is that our religious education classes are currently held in the church basement, and the basement is accessed from an interior stairway. There is a fire escape, but the door to the fire escape is right adjacent to the interior stairway. There are no other windows or other means of egress. So if ever there was an issue, a fire at that end of the building, and anybody was down there, they would have no escape. It's also, well, it's an older space. It's kind of murky and dank down there. But there is concern, especially in today's environment, but in any environment, that classrooms without windows and doors that are small, with no visible, I'm trying to come up with the right words, with no vision into the classroom, and concerns for any potential for child abuse. The design of the basement classrooms does not facilitate a more open and welcoming environment. So that's our number one thing, is safety, and we feel it's urgent. The church also has very limited overflow seating, and for practically none, but some events that we do have, the St. Patrick's Day dinners, community attended, we don't have adequate facilities for that. So what we're anticipating is just better use, buildings for our existing operations, and we do not anticipate adding a lot of parking requirements, adding a lot of other congestion downtown. Although I will say, after Sunday Mass at 10:30, where Barb and I go, if you go downtown, restaurants are full of parishioners. So the parish does add quite a bit of vitality to our community, and we're happy and historically glad to be here. So happy to answer any questions, address any concerns, but we are asking you please to recommend to City Council that we move forward with this application.
Okay, so are we complete with the applicant's presentation?
Believe so.
Okay, good. What we're going to be doing is, once we're done with the applicant's presentation, we're going to go to commissioner questions, public comment after that, commissioner comment. So please try and keep your questions only. And then we'll be looking at what we're going to do after that. So if we could start with questions. John, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff?
Joan, you're muted.
Okay, when was proposed construction considered?
And I'll answer these as they come up. We do have to do fundraising, and as you can imagine, this is a challenging environment for fundraising with our COVID crisis. But our timetable, our hoped for timetable, depending on fundraising, is that we would like to get the demo work on the old rectory building done later this fall or winter, and the site cleaned up, and then potentially starting construction next spring.
So my other question, if the demo was to be done in the winter, wouldn't the bats be in the house and dormant?
No. We did research that, and there is a protocol for removing bats from a property, and there are one-way bat doors. The garage that's there already had the one-way bat door on it, and as of now, the rectory also does. So bats apparently exit the building in any way they can, but when they return, they come back by sense of smell. So this one-way bat door is located, the re-entrance is located well away from the actual hole in the structure, and the bats don't find it. This is a process published by the Penn State University Extension for getting bats out of a structure, and we have installed.
Did we lose the phone again?
Okay, Bill, we lost the call. Bill. Still talking. Yeah.
I need to recall. Do you have the?
Yeah, just a second. It is, 1-301.
No, 301.
715.
In the meeting.
And it's,
Hey, Chair,
curious-
Maren, could I interrupt for a second? We lost our our phone call here for about probably 3 minutes, And so when Pat was answering that last question, we didn't hear him on the record.
Okay, I will repeat the answer, Susan. We did research how to remove bats from the building, and we ended up with a document from Penn State University Extension on installing one-way bat doors that allow bats to go out, but they cannot come or will not come back in. That extension also recommends installing a separate bat house somewhere else on the property, so when the bats come back and they can't get back into their house, we have some place for them to go. And per James's presentation, that on-site bat house box, if you will, is part of our plan. The bat one-way doors have already been installed, so there shouldn't be a concern that come winter, they're already in hibernation. And we did also visually inspect the attic and saw no evidence of bats in there. Then the follow-up question from Joan was, if you didn't get it onto the record, was, have we looked into safety issues regarding remediating any bat guano that might be up there?
Exactly, just curious.
And so we have not, but we will.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
John, are you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bernie, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right. Eric, do you have any questions?
What's the plan for the basement once it's cleared out?
Our plan is to use that for storage with the existing staircase.
Tracy, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff?
No.
All right. Rick, do you have any questions of applicant or staff?
Who's Rick?
Or I'm Robert, I'm sorry. Rob. I was looking at Rick Bob's name right next to your head, so I'm sorry.
James, you mentioned a child care review if it ever became an issue in the future.
Yeah. Basically, a child care review for accessory child care would require a special review, which is a P&Z and council level review. Staff in the draft conditions is acknowledging that that's a community need at the current time. So in the future, if the applicant desired to have accessory child care on the site, they could have an abbreviated process that would require P&Z review to make sure all the elements for child care review, such as loading and drop-off parking, were satisfied, but they wouldn't have to go to the council for that review.
Are we discussing that now so it doesn't have to be done later? I'm confused.
You're discussing whether the process for that is okay, but not the specific elements of it. It would be for the
Just the process, okay.
Yeah, correct.
Because I didn't know we were reviewing.
No, you're not.
Okay. And second question, I recall on the site visit, there were some gorgeous trees along Midland, and we're going to try to find a way to maybe preserve them.
We most definitely especially want to preserve that spruce tree that's out
Blue
front.
spruce, right?
It's a beautiful tree and it's pretty mature. Our current building does not require that to be moved so when we do the tree fencing for the tree that the neighbor to the west is concerned about, which is at the rear of their driveway, it kind of shades their house, I would recommend that we should probably do the tree fencing on that spruce up front as well, and do our best to maintain that. We want it to.
I agree. Okay, because if we lose it, we'll hear about it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm making a note to add that fencing.
That's all I have, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rob. I personally have only one question about, and this may have been stated, I was having some connectivity issues earlier and couldn't hear everything. Are the property line issues at the back currently still in the same place they were before when we had our site visit?
Yes,
Yes.
as far as I know.
Okay. It doesn't seem to be something that impacts what we're doing, so I just was curious about that. I think this is all we have for questions. I think we need to open up for public comment at this time, Susan. How do you want to do that?
Well, what I'm going to do is I did get one question from, I got a bunch of series of questions from Susan Hayward, and then I texted her to see if she wanted to speak. And let me just read her response. So I think that she's going to want to speak, and she had a series of questions, which I'll read to you. But how many other events is the church planning in addition to the school use? Just a second, I just lost it because people are emailing me. Just a second. It is a 125 seat proposal. Will this include weddings, evening meetings? What are the requirements for building behavior? How early can construction begin? How late can they work? Can they work on weekends? So maybe what we'll do is we'll answer the second question about the building. Does that work for you, Chair Marin?
Yes.
So James, maybe you should repeat the earlier kind of comment that we got from the public record, and the applicant's response and what our code provides and kind of what our take on that was.
You mean construction
Yeah,
timing? We did receive comments from Eric Gross, who represents the neighboring property owner, and those were in the comments that Susan sent you earlier today. Wondering if the construction could start at 8 instead of 7, and then there was questions about whether construction could happen on the weekends. And you know, our standard town code requirements for construction hours are Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but they can't have backup alarms on equipment before 8 a.m. So that's the standard code requirement for construction time. We have had requests on other projects to change the construction hours, and staff has tried to stay away from changing the construction hours on a project-by-project basis because it just leads to more requests. It's kind of a slippery slope. So currently, the conditions have the required construction timing per the town code, which once again is Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., with no backup alarms before 8 a.m.
And then the other questions were really directed to the applicant. So let me know if you needed me to repeat anything. I think basically they wanted to know the status of your events and, you know, where you're going to
Sure, I
have
can
evening
pick
meetings
that
and
up,
stuff like
Susan.
that.
We don't have a lot, to tell you the truth. We have 2-3 weddings a year. We are not anticipating a big bump in that number. The space is not large enough to accommodate a large wedding by any means. We do have adult religious education meetings and, you know, prayer groups and stuff like that that meet on a regular basis, but those are all existing. And so similar to the religious education, it doesn't, we don't see that we're adding much to the parking load or, you know, other concerns around what's going on with with the facility other than what we've been doing for a long, long time. And I don't know about the building behavior. I didn't understand that question. Is that one that
That
James
was
just
the one
answered?
that we answered, that had to do with the construction.
Okay. What, did I miss anything else, Susan?
I think that you answered those. She also wants to speak. So what I was gonna do, there's two procedural things I wanted to do. One, enter into the record, the correspondence that we emailed you, earlier, which, was one from Jerry Twilliger, his comments that you received, and then we received comments from Eric Gross on behalf of the neighboring, property owner, West Midland Project LLC, so you got those. And then, actually, there were two emails from Eric Gross, and then there was a response from the church dated today. So those I want to officially enter into the public record, make an announcement that if you want to speak, you need to text 970-379-1514 or email planning@basalt.net. So I'm going to go ahead and place the call to Susan Howard and allow her to speak. And I'm just going to, while I'm doing that, kind of put my timer on just so I have kind of an idea of how much time is happening. So I'm going to place that call now. Susan? Can you hear me?
It went off a green, so I don't think you have her.
Okay, so I'm gonna try one more time. It actually sounded good, though.
Hello, you've reached Susan's phone. Please give me a call back or leave your number and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have a really good day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Susan. This is Susan Phelps from the town of Basalt, and we were trying to call you. I'm going to check your email. It's possible that you didn't need to speak in response to the answers that you received, but we'll double check. So please text me right away at 970-379-1514 if you wanted to speak. Good. Okay, let me just check my email here. She just said she doesn't have any need to speak. She just emailed me, so I think we're good. So that's all the public comment that we have, Chair Marin. And maybe before we continue.
If you're satisfied with the message, press 1. To listen to your message, press 2.
Maybe what might be helpful before we have deliberation is for James to summarize his kind of modified condition that we sent you earlier today. And this was in response to the applicant's acquiescence to a couple things that the neighbors were looking for. And I would say that the other modification to the conditions that I would recommend the P and Z entertain is just a recognition that the applicant is gonna, try to protect the spruce tree, during construction. So, James, do you wanna summarize the other condition?
Yeah, the condition number 22 adjustments that were made adds in language that requires the applicant to maintain the existing fence between the subject property and the property to the west during construction. It also requires that the applicant erect construction fencing around the location of the addition for the duration of construction, which includes having barrier cloth on it, which you see throughout the valley on most construction sites. That's in addition to the language that we already had requiring construction management plan that would include construction, parking, and dust mitigation measures, as well as construction, parking, and staging on the site. So that's the proposed adjustments to the conditions that we have in the staff memo.
So I think that it's the staff memo conditions plus this amended 22 with another recommendation to protect the spruce tree during the construction, if that works.
Susan, James, may I ask a question on that barrier cloth issue?
Yes.
Certainly, we would expect to install barrier cloths between neighbors and like where we're actually building the new addition. But I'd hate to think that we had a barrier cloth around the whole church that made us look like we were closed.
Just the construction area.
So our front door is still accessible and it doesn't, look like we're turning people away.
Correct, and I think the details of that construction management plan and the fencing, we try to be real careful about sight lines, so we might want to make some adjustments, like if you're in Willits Town Center, you see the corners and stuff that we don't have barrier, because we do want to kind of protect those sight lines, so I think we'll have to work with you. I think the intent is that on the western side between the two properties and in the front that we would have the barrier at a minimum, right, James?
Yeah, but not to obstruct the view of the front entry from Midland.
Awesome, thank you very much.
It looks like we lost Bill Marin.
Let me see if he texted me. He was having some connection problems. So in the absence of that, let me just...
EV starts stretching.
Just a second, let me just call him. You guys might as well listen in. Oh. Yes, I see your message here that you need to take a 5-minute break to reboot.
Yes.
Have you started that process already?
I'm in the middle of it.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. Did you officially close the public comment period?
No, I couldn't speak.
Okay. Oh, there you are. You're connecting now.
I'm back.
Okay.
Let me keep that. Sorry about that all.
No, we're right at commissioner comment time.
Yes, first off, I got to close the public comment section of the meeting at 6:41 p.m.
Thank you, Bill.
So now we're back to commissioner comments. Let's start with Joan. Do you have any comments to make about this?
No, I do not.
Okay. Bernie, do you have any comments to make about this, project?
I think it's a very important and worthwhile addition for the church. It promotes social activity. It increases safety and well-being, and I'm glad the church is not needing or looking to move out of its historic downtown position. It's a, substantial addition to our social welfare. And I find the parking plan to be quite reasonable, and the waiver of affordable housing to be justified by the active and continuous role the Archdiocese has played in promoting and achieving substantial gains in affordable housing in our valley.
Thank you, Bernie.
All righty. Eric, do you have any comments to make?
Nope, looks good.
All righty. Tracy, comments?
No, and I just want to say thank you for taking care of the bat thing. That was my deal. So I really appreciate you guys going above and beyond.
Righty. Thank you, Tracy. Let's see. Hang on a second. Oh, shoot. Hang on a second.
Hey, Bill, can you hear me? Go like this if you can hear me.
It's frozen.
Because I'm kind of thinking that maybe,
Again. Rob, do you have any comments to make?
I do not.
No. Alrighty, I have some comments I'd like to make about this, but it's not about this project per se. I find this project to be a valuable and worthwhile addition to the community, but it does bring up some issues to me about the demolition of historic buildings, for which the Archdiocese is entirely within their right to do, and I don't want to hold this project up because of that. But I think this, especially in light of the other Victorian that got torn down on Midland Avenue, I think we should start having a discussion about this sort of thing and the management of the demolition of historic buildings within the town. And I don't want to burden this project, but I do want to have that conversation. So if, in light of that, do we have a motion for this project to approve?
I'll move approval of the project of the addition to the church.
Okay, we have a first, and it looks like we have a second with Joan, right?
Yeah, I'll second it, Bill.
What about the staff,
This is a question.
the question I have is, does that include the additions as per the staff memo?
Yes, my original motion includes the additional requirements contained in the staff memo outlining the project.
plus, Bernie, plus what James summarized during his presentation, which was the two amendments to condition 22 in the spruce tree.
And my original motion includes the number 22, Amendment 22, and the care and attempt to preserve the spruce tree.
All right, so we have a motion that everyone's comfortable with?
Who was the second? Was it Rob? Was Rob the second? Clarification?
I seconded it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Joan second. Okay.
So do we need to call for a vote on the motion? Can you hear me, Susan?
Yeah, I'll do the roll call. Bill Marin,
Yes.
Joan Keefe,
Yes,
Gino Rossetti is absent, Eric Volzek,
Yes.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes.
Bernie Grauer,
Aye.
Rob Levitt,
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, so the motion passes. Is that correct, Susan? Because I can
Yes.
barely hear.
Yes, the motion passes.
Okay, we're gonna need to take another 5-minute break, because I'm gonna have to come down, because I'm just not working here. Is that all right?
So are we gonna take a 5-minute break, or what's your,
That's what he's proposing.
okay. Okay,
I'll be down in a minute.
okay,
You can just take this computer.
yeah.
Susan, with that, I'll sign off. Thank you
Yep.
very much for
You're
all
welcome.
the
Thanks.
work everyone has done on this.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Father Rick.
Appreciate it.
All right, see everybody later. Thank you.
Okay. Updates, it would be just fine to be on the record. So one thing is that we are planning on having our joint P and Z and Town Council meeting on the Tuesday, the 18th, and we're gonna have it at Albany Park, and we're gonna try to clear out the picnic tables and then have everyone socially distanced. And our current plan is that people will have to wear masks, and we're still kind of discussing whether when someone's talking, whether they can, step like 25 feet from folks and talk without their masks. So that's the current plan. So, you guys will have to kind of let us know if that isn't what you're thinking could work. Really, the last time we can really make something work, I think, after 5 o'clock is really in August, because it starts getting dark and cold. And then a couple other things. You probably know that the Stedman Clinic is making its way through our review process, and they're looking to get their foundation permit next week. We just received the land use application for Lot J. That's the parcel off of Emma Road. We've been working on Stotts Mill. The issue's kind of been some issues with the ditch company, but it looks like those are resolved, and we'll be moving forward with that. We've been working with the Post Committee on some additional tennis courts. So we'd have 4 tennis courts and a basketball court on the South Park. Construction is ongoing, as you know, in Willits Town Center with Block 11 North and the Aspen Ski Company and Takaw. They received their approval from the town council. I mean, they didn't really have to get approval, but we did the documents that kind of allow a more seamless transfer of money to Takaw during the construction process. The barrier painting project is well on its way. If you've seen the different, we have the concrete barriers around town, we kind of had a little project to paint them up, and we have 7 different artists. So you'll be seeing some of that because it's kind of fun. What else should I add?
We have a revised site plan review application for a small single-family house in Mabel's subdivision that was done by Mark Elise. So you'll be seeing that in a month or so, probably.
Yep.
We also have an amendment application in on 11 Durox Lane for their site plan approval. You may remember they received approval for several housing units on that industrial site where Helpers is located in the Basalt Industrial Park. They've got an amendment to adjust their parking, so you'll be seeing that application here soon as well.
And regarding the Archdiocesan housing project, the 75 units as part of Willits Bend, we've been in discussions with Eagle County. The one thing that Eagle County, what? Oh, okay, just one sec then. Just a second, James. Sorry. I can't get the Zoom information.
Here, I can make this 3, 4, 6.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
841 0225 1308.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to You are in the meeting now. There are 11 participants in the meeting.
Put in a stent to get him in a defibrillator to keep him going for a while he works his way through the list. There's a GoFundMe page, so if you have any interest in that, or you see Temple, you might want to pass along your well wishes.
Oh,
Yeah, he graduated not this past year, but last year from high school.
wow, like she needs that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, after plastic, and then it's
Oh my God.
yeah. Tristan saw him in the spring. He was down to like 85 pounds.
Oh, poor kid.
Yeah, just in that camera.
Okay. Sorry about that, everybody, having technical problems. Okay, I don't have any of my PDFs in front of me now.
James, maybe you could share yours, and here's an agenda.
Thank you, that's all I need.
Okay.
That's all I need is the agenda. Okay.
James, want to,
So, sorry about that, everyone. Are we ready to start item 4A? Yes? All right, let's start item 4A, wildfire mitigation and municipal code amendments. Susan.
Okay, so what we have in front of you today is amendments to 5 different chapters of the town code addressing wildfire mitigation, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, but before I do, I kind of wanted to go ahead and introduce the folks that are watching, so you can, have been participating in drafting these regulations. They're really coming to us, initially they were coming to us from the Roaring Fork Fire Authority, who came and met with us at the end of last year. They had actively been working with the town of Snowmass Village to get them to adopt wildfire protection regulations, and after they got them approved with the town of Snowmass Village, they wanted to advocate those with the town of Basalt. So we have John Melly. John, you want to raise your hand? John is the fire marshal for the Roaring Fork Fire Authority, and we're just going to call him Fire Department from now on, okay? And along with him is Brooks Stott. Brooke, do you want to raise your hand? She's in the lower part of the screen. She's also with the fire district, and she is one of our main contacts when we do typical land use referrals. You'll probably recall seeing letters from Brooke. We also have Rick Fout, who is our Basalt building official. You can't see him, you see his name on the screen. So in terms of the team from the Basalt staff who worked on it, we had the building official, myself, and James were part of our team. And then from our town attorney side, Carp New Hanlon, We had Richard Peterson Kramer. Richard, do you want to just go off mute and introduce yourself a little bit? So you're on mute, yeah.
Sorry. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've been working with Carp New Hanlon for about 2 years now, and been helping out with this project under Jeff's supervision. So nice to meet you all.
So now I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and see. James, it didn't work, so maybe you could help me here for a second.
Susan, do you need me to switch with you to, okay. There we go.
All right. Trouble is that it didn't take it to the top here. So here's our informal committee that I introduced everyone to earlier. And just, I included these pictures in your packet just to remind us how close the fire was really impacting us. And so here's, you know, I just included 3 pictures that John had provided us to just kind of ground us of why is fire protection so important to the town of Basalt. And here is an excerpt from the town's strategic work plan, and this just includes these statements that we're, you know, that we're developing a fire mitigation program and that we're gonna pursue code amendments. I also included in your packet several excerpts from our master plan. Our master plan, first of all, we heard comments, this is part of our public input section, about fire emergency access being a concern, and you know, just here, you know, as climate change happens, just a more awareness of the public, and I think all of our different boards about that we need new tools and approaches as part of our land use code. This was just, you know, our heightened awareness of kind of the need to take action. Here's a goal, one of our goals is to build fire and water resiliency into our community planning projects. Here again, we're talking about considering requirements for hardening, using fire hardened materials and fire resistant site planning techniques, and encouraging homeowners to manage their vegetation. This is part of the section of our plan that just deals with sustainability, and again, you know, directing the town to pursue building code changes to address fire-ready solutions. So we started out, the team, looking at what Snowmass did and all the different subjects that Snowmass addressed. And we then, with our attorneys, determined where best should they be located in the town code. So we ended up proposing to change 5 areas of the town code. Now, legally, the only one of these chapters that really specifically requires P&Z review before we make any changes is really Exhibit A, which has to do with the zoning chapter. So we have Exhibit A is our zoning chapter, Exhibit B is our subdivision chapter, Exhibit C is our building regulations, and that has the big star by it because that's where the most significant additions to the code are being made. Exhibit D is health, sanitation, and animals, and then Exhibit E is our chapter dealing with municipal utilities. And I think it's important to note that in these regulations, we define areas subject to wildfire hazards as all land within the town of Basalt. So all the land is treated equally in the town, and that's really kind of an important premise of our regulations. So in Chapter 16, those amendments just really formalize the land use application referral process. I mean, you notice now that we send our applications to the fire department and they give us referral comments. And it asks the fire department to use the guidelines issued by the Colorado State Forest Service. Chapter 17, that's our subdivision code again. Very similar to the zoning chapter. This is where we're formalizing the land use application referral process for subdivisions and condominiums, and it emphasizes the need for adequate access. So the big changes to the code really occur in Chapter 18. Then the most important thing that these regulations do is address the hardening of new buildings and all new additions. There's a new standard on fences. It says that the 36 inches next to the habitable structure must be fire-resistant material. It can be wood, it can be a gate, it can be masonry, but it has to be meet the criteria of being fire-resistant. There's also doors, standards for exterior doors, windows, decks, and accessory structures. And it's important to kind of note that our existing codes, you know, we've adopted the I codes, we adopted the fire code. So these are regulations that are in addition to our current standards. You know, by way of example, the I codes for commercial and residential buildings already require things like how big your lettering has to be and the fact that you're gonna be able to see it from the street. But this requirement adds that it has the lettering, the numbers have to be on a fire-resistant material. We also, in this section, address applicability. So we're requiring the hardening of all new buildings. You can have small sheds that are under 200 feet. We tried to relate these requirements to other standards in the code. So by way of example, if you have a shed that's under 200 feet today, you don't have to come in and get a building permit, but you do have to submit a site plan so that we can make sure that you don't have your shed in a setback. So you can go to Lowe's, you can go to Wayfair and order your shed, but if it's under 200 feet. There's thresholds for repair, like if you have a new roof, you can, if you have standards for when the repair kind of triggers that you have to replace the entire roof. So also just kind of noting that if you're currently caught as a requirement in our sustainable building regulations, you're going to be caught by the requirements that these standards kick in. So it deals with all construction. You know, it requires, even if you don't have a building permit, you would need to meet these standards. There's also, we built in an exception process. So, you know, if there's unusual, unique circumstances or because of weather or the time of year, there's a need to take immediate action. The TRC, that's the Technical Review Committee, they can grant waivers. And another thing is that this supersedes homeowner HOA documents because it's a health and safety issue. So we actually include a particular statement in the code about that. And then Chapter 7 is our code on health, sanitation, and animals. Now the three prior, 16, 17, and 18, that means new development, but these are standards in chapter 7 that would pertain to all of the town of Basalt. This is where we have code provisions on bear-proof ordinance and stuff is built into this health, sanitation, and animals. It really kind of addresses the storage of fuel and debris on lots that can cause or spread fires. And then the last set of code amendments deal with municipal utilities. And this is saying that you have to provide access to your electrical and gas utilities, your meters, your regulators, and your piping, that all homeowners have to provide access. You can have them in enclosures, you can have them behind gates or in other enclosures, but you can't have a lock on that area that would prevent access by emergency personnel or utility employees. So our schedule is we had a work session with the town council on the 28th. You know, they asked some questions, but the amendments were very favorably received. And then we're today in front of the P&Z, and then we're scheduled to go in front of the town council, a public hearing on first reading next Tuesday, August 11th, and second reading on August 25th. And then just kind of a note, you know, if you see it on the agenda, they are also proposing amendments to the town's fire ban ordinance, and that's going to be considered by the council at the same time. So that has to do with fireworks and your burning on your lot within a fire pit and stuff like that. You know, there was some discussion at the town council meeting about construction costs, and John Melly can kind of speak to this. This is information that was made available to town of Snowmass Village, and they used these costs. But Jen, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you?
Yeah, you're going through the microphone.
Okay.
You're muted on Zoom, but you're not muted because we're doing that.
Oh, yeah, I'm muted on Zoom.
Yeah, you're muted on Zoom, and that's what he was thinking.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. And just kind of pointing out I emailed you this report earlier today. This was just kind of doing a demonstration on this particular one, that while some costs were higher for the fire-resistant materials, for example, the tan color on this graph was the roofing material. Overall, the costs were slightly less. And so that is really kind of the presentation that I had. Who can't hear me?
Anybody, Rob and Bernie
Okay.
They can't?
No, I heard him talking to Rix.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll do
We're having all sorts of technical problems tonight.
Keeps resetting.
Now, there are 11 participants in the meeting.
So, when did you guys stop hearing me?
Just now.
A little bit, about 2 minutes ago. You had the picture up on the screen of the home costs.
Yeah, just to speak to that, you know, briefly, I emailed everyone that package, but John can kind of speak to that. But generally, while some costs were more like for the roofing material, overall, the fire-resistant material was slightly less based on that information. And so really, the only other thing I think I added was I just mentioned that there was a fire ban ordinance that was going to be considered by the council at the same time. So before I maybe open it up for questions, John, maybe you could maybe add just why you guys think it's so important for the town to adopt these regulations and what you're trying to accomplish with this. And you're on mute. I mean, you're on, yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to address this. There's many things that a community can do through land use planning and building regulations to help stem the threat of wildfire. This is not a new topic. As a matter of fact, when we presented a work session in front of town council prior to the one last week, council then, although it was a different council, did give us direction to come and try to put together some comprehensive wildfire codes that would fit the town of Basalt. We think we've done that, and when you look at these codes, it's not retroactive, and it's a forward-thinking, proactive code, much like a sustainability code, much like an energy code. You don't go in and retrofit everybody. Nobody's going to be running around Basalt brush cop-wise, writing tickets and trying to get people to conform. It's for new development. And as new development grows through the town, we actually build in wildfire safety into the new codes. These are not codes that we made up. These are all recommendations that the Colorado State Forest Service has promoted for decades, 20 years, the same type of things. We think Basalt's ready. We think that, community picks the type of fire protection it wants, and that's why we're reaching out to the town. We think these codes are wise for Basalt being in a wildfire hazard zone, and we want to just look forward, and hopefully you'll have questions for us, and hopefully you'll see the reasoning why we're asking for it. Thank you.
Richard, do you want to add anything that you think I should emphasize?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of generally going through the provisions that you reviewed earlier. I think it's important to understand that the land use referral parts and building code will apply to every part of town, to new construction, kind of how we dealt with the applicability section. And then the last two exhibits will also deal with every part of town, but also to all, kind of existing properties. It does track pretty closely with what the town of Snowmass Village did. We just kind of broke it up into different chapters so that as folks are coming in for various permits and applications, they could see, oh, we need to do this here for a subdivision application, for example. So that's kind of how we addressed it from a legal and kind of codification perspective.
Rick, do you want to add anything to emphasize anything?
I missed some of that because somehow I went offline and had to rejoin the meeting. But no, it's just been an interesting study and a worthwhile case. I'm all for adopting this stuff. Seems necessary with the wildfires that were licking at our back doors recently. So I'm just trying to, too strong a word here, struggle through it.
Susan, are we ready for?
Yeah, I
questions?
think we're ready for questions, unless Brooke, you had anything that you wanted to add. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to follow our usual pattern. We're going to have commissioner questions followed by a public. This is a public hearing, right?
No,
It is
but
not a
we were going to take public comment.
We're going to take so we'll
Yeah.
take public comment,
Yeah.
but it's not a hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll have commissioner comments, and then we'll talk about a motion. So we'll start with Joan. Do you have any questions of staff?
No, I do not.
Alrighty, thank you. Bernie, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
All right, Eric, questions? Tracy, questions? No?
No.
Rob, questions?
What's the timing of this being adopted?
We're gonna have, if the P and Z makes a recommendation tonight, we would have our first reading in front of the town council on Tuesday, August 11th, and then 2 weeks later, have the second reading.
And it has immediate implementation?
Well, it gets published, and it would be about 3 weeks after that it would take effect.
Okay. That was it?
Mid-September.
Alrighty, Rob, do you have any more questions?
No.
Okay, I have some questions, and forgive me if I nerd out on this, but, you know, code questions, or building code questions are kind of a thing. And also, for me personally, this is a big deal because I spent a week in the shelter 2 years ago. So I would really like to keep my house from burning down and the house of anyone I know or care about. So this is a big deal. But anyway, so you already answered this. This does not really apply retroactively to existing buildings. That's correct, John, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And is this similar to or different than the Urban Wildfire Interface Code, or is it derived from that?
There are elements of the WUI code, the Wildland Urban Interface Code, but it's much less restrictive. The WUI codes are really hard on a community. You have to be fairly committed strongly to that code. We tailored this to match and be similar to Pitkin County, Eagle County, the town of Snowmass Village, and the town of Basalt. They all tried to be a little bit parallel. They're different in little respects, but we also try to take the makeup of the community. So for Basalt, we feel that this is an appropriate move forward, at least from this juncture.
So it's not even like, you know, say like type 5A on the exterior of the building, or is it more like that?
Well, you still can build your home with a type 5A construction. However, your exterior walls become 1 hour rated. Yeah. You use non-combustible siding, you use non-combustible eaves. You can use wood products in there. It's just that the way they're constructed, they have now a 1 hour effect from the exterior in. Most building codes address interior out, and this just adds that element to the exterior side of the home. Most wildfires are caused by ember showers that land on your deck, under your deck, piles of leaves. They have a fire-resistant construction exterior, allows firefighters a little bit more time, and it also provides that added protection that sometimes can save a home.
All righty, thank you. Is this in any way, are we confident that this doesn't conflict with any existing codes? Like I could see where some of the environmental regulations may, with certain material requirements, may in some way conflict, or we're pretty sure it doesn't do that.
Well, we had, you know, Rick Fout with our building department involved, and I would say that we've built into both of those regulations have some safety measures here, so if there is a conflict, and I don't know that there is, but if there is, one, we have this provision that the technical review committee, in terms of the Firewise construction, that we can provide exemptions, and then the sustainable building regulations, they also have kind of a procedure made up of the building official and the town planner and so a couple of other people that can kind of make variances and waivers. So if there was some kind of unusual circumstance, I think both of those provisions of the code would kind of play off each other and you could work out the details.
So there's a mechanism to deal with that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess that is pretty much it for questions. So let's open this up for public comment now at 7:21 PM.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make my announcement that we did not get any text or emails to speak, but if you do, please email planning@basalt.net or text 970-379-1514, and I will open up the clock. So give me a second on that. And on this particular case, I'm only gonna have it run since we had made, I'm not gonna do 2 minutes, I'm only gonna do like a minute on this because I think people had plenty of time to text or email us if they wanted to speak.
Okay.
And when it rings, I have to start it again, just to, because I had it on 45 seconds.
It's like the Jeopardy clock.
It's just like the Jeopardy clock.
We should have the music.
Okay, so just give me like a few more seconds.
15 seconds, okay.
Okay, so I think we're good.
Okay, well, let's have commissioner comments about this. We could start with Joan. Do you have any comments to make about this?
No, I have no comments.
Okay, Bernie, comments, please.
Well, I think any improvements in our fire safety code is positive, and we were all through it. So I think this is a step in the right direction.
Thank you, Bernie. Eric, do you have any comments to make?
Oh, looks good.
Tracy, comments? Nope.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Rob, comments, please.
You know, as a general contractor, John, I'm just curious what the plan is for your outreach, educational outreach to spread this word.
So much like we did in the village here, we sent out a letter to all of the architects in the area. And this Friday, there's also a building community meeting that Rick Fout was good enough to form. There must be 50 names on that contractor list that we've invited to discuss this matter this Friday. We've been, most of the contractors here in Snowmass build in Basalt too, and they've all been pretty open-armed about it and understand the reasoning. But once again, every community is different, but there will be more outreach once this goes into effect. And education, of course, we're not stopping with that. And we'll also continue our vegetation management. We had crews up mitigating the water tower tanks up in Basalt and across from Town Hall. We'll continue all those measures.
And just to add that, tag on to John's announcement that we're having a meeting at 11 o'clock. We've posted it on the news section of our webpage. It's at 11 o'clock, and Caesar, who's filming it today, is gonna film it for us. So it will also be available up on Grassroots. So that'll be Friday at 11 o'clock.
Is there a flyer or something that'll be in the building office?
I think that Rick emailed folks, but we can do another blast of information out on that.
Okay.
All right, Rob, thank you. I do have a couple more comments to make. They're actually more like questions. And what you asked, one of them was the outreach question, which is a very good one. I wanted to know if there is any phase-in period for this. So like, for example, Pitkin County just amended their IECC code with 0 phase-in time. So that can be kind of jarring for practitioners.
Well, we weren't planning on it. We were planning on when the ordinance would take effect, which would be in September. But I would say that our language in here where the TRC can grant exemptions, we could weigh particular circumstances. I think most folks that are seeking building permits, and Rick, you might want to speak to that, of people that we know that are kind of out there kind of getting ready for building permits. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know, it's getting to be late summer, early fall. Most people have been proactive, and they're either here or close to here. I don't know of a ton that are still at the drawing board and going to come in, after this, but certainly there'll be some. A lot of these builders work in Pickens County, Eagle County, and Snowmass, and they're already used to versions of this. They'll just have to get used to our slightly amended version for tailoring it to basalt. And it is slight changes is all. That's kind of my best answer on that.
Okay, because it's really only a problem with like commercial projects in the pipeline. And you'd probably know about those anyway. My next question is about enforceability. Do we have any enforceability with this? Is it all through the building department?
Well, there's two different areas of the code. I mean, so for one, the planning referral thing, that'll happen automatically with James and me in the planning department. The building code will be Rick, and he hires, he has some assistants that he hires consultants to review that. The other two sections of the code, which have to do with more your debris and your wood piles and that type of thing, that will not be the building department, and that we'll have to kind of work our way through that section. We tried to make it pretty reasonable. So we, by way of example, we were exempting flower beds and things in planters and things in terms of the vegetation, and really just dealing with the length of the grass. And in terms of wood piles, we're trying to be reasonable when we know that 7-Eleven and the commercial businesses sell wood outside their business, and that's why the language has to do with kind of excluding those areas. So if there's particular things that you want us to look at, we can. But,
No, nothing. I just sort of wanted to know. I was curious how that was going to work.
yeah.
And also for houses that are in town but have no landscaped areas around them, it's just like wild land coming up to the house. Does this require you to mow around your house that 6 feet?
John, do you want to address that one?
Because that would be me.
No, that's kind of a retroactive enforcement where we didn't feel that was the right avenue to go at this time. We certainly would reach out to those people, educate, and as a matter of fact, the Roaring Fork Fire Authority, we're of the nature of a helping kind rather than an enforcement or ticket kind. I think if it was that big of an issue and there were problems where they couldn't afford to do it or had physical ways where they maybe not able to do it, I think we work through those. At least that's our philosophy right now. I think once it gets to a gross negligence, then I think we work through the town and the planning department and everyone else to rectify the situation. But that isn't, the enforcement part isn't really to be strict about this. We're supposed to help our community out here.
Well, that's a very good answer. All right, thank you very much. That's all of my comments on this. Does anyone want to make a motion about this?
Motion to approve.
All right, Rob's the first.
Submitted.
Eric's second. All in favor? Do we need a roll call vote?
We need to do a roll call. Bill Marin,
Yes.
Joan Keefe,
Yes.
Gino Rossetti, absent, Eric Volzek,
Yes.
Tracy Bennett,
Yes.
Bernie Grauer,
Aye.
Rob Levitt.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John and Rick, for all of your hard work on this. This is a very important thing.
And Brooke.
Oh, and Brooke too, yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you very much. Commissioner comments and staff updates.
Well, Bill, while you were kind of driving here, I gave a lot of staff updates, and
So you can catch me up.
I'll just catch you up after we adjourn. I think where I was kind of wrapping up when, I don't remember if I got frozen or you came in the door, was we were just kind of acknowledging that the Archdiocesan Housing Project has a site visit on this Thursday, but they're continuing the public hearing. We've been in discussions with them, and there was kind of two places of the staff memo that we've updated. One of those was just a reference to Eagle County would really like to have us take improvements instead of the Willets Lane transportation fee. And so we wrote an update. After talking it over with Ryan Mahoney, we're accepting of that, and so we're taking the pedestrian activated crossing signal and the pathway from the Aspen Junction bus stop to the intersection as credit towards those impact fees. And if there's still money that would be owed, then they could make other improvements to the crosswalks, et cetera, over in the Aspen Junction. You know, just the other thing, just to kind of to flag to you, the town had issued an access permit a number of years ago on the Willets Bend PUD, and that had some legal limitations of when we could reactivate another access permit. So we're actually not at that point, so we kind of clarified that if we didn't hit those triggers, then we wouldn't require the access permit. So that was just kind of an update. And I think that's all I have for other updates. Was there anything else I missed, James? I think that's it. So we'll look forward to seeing you right now on the 18th of August when we have our joint meeting, unless the majority of the council can't make that time. Or our COVID rules change once again, so.
Susan?
Uh-huh.
Is that Willets Bend site visit open to us?
I believe that I think there's a registration that you have to do. I will forward you the information. I think that there's actually, you have to kind of sign up for it, I think, but I could forward that information to you if you wanted to attend.
Thanks.
Alrighty, anything
Okay,
else? That's
I think
it?
that's it.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn? First is Eric, second is Rob.
Second.
All in favor? Do you need a roll call?
No, if I can see everybody's hand, I'm good. Okay.
We're adjourned. Thank you all very much. Sorry about my technical difficulties.
7:35, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You want me to leave from here?
Hey, Susan.
Yeah?
Susan?
Yep.
Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, what is going on at Guido's? My dog has been freaking out here through the whole meeting because there's these big explosion noises over there. You know?
No, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, James was recommending going on the Basalt community page. You might learn faster. I'm looking for my phone.
Tracy, maybe Stefan Alboui came back to life and is lighting off his carbide cannon.